Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here with our final match for WCS NA Challenger. My name is Fear Dragon, and I am joined by Nathanius for this final one. How you doing, man?
Sup?
All right. This is going to be a repeat series between, of course, Semper and Silky. But before we get that started, we want to just really quickly go over the groups, see how players have done, and who has actually made it to those playoffs today. So you can see that we already had our earlier groups from the schedule, as we had, I think it was
Showtime and Hero Marine qualified yesterday alongside Euthermal and Inertio, who qualified this morning. And of course, we'll be having the rest of the groups play out over the next weekends. WCS on the weekends, boys. Cancel all your plans. Don't go to amusement parks. You're busy watching StarCraft all day.
Yeah, most amusement parks even have Wi-Fi. You can watch while on a roller coaster.
Okay, as long as you have it open, make sure you post in chat to verify you're actually there. It's really important to us.
Yeah, but of course, I think we also had some of the other awesome stuff that was happening on the North American side. So we had Neve and Jon Snow making it out of that first group.
And so far, Scarlet destroyed this group.
And I think
wrecked it.
She did pretty well. It's awesome to see Scarlet in good form because there's always, again, like whenever I watch Scarlet, as a Scarlet fan, you're always just like, yeah, Scarlet's in really good form, guys. She's finally back. She's going to dominate everyone. And then like the next week she loses to like
she can be
Hawaiian or something. You're like, what happened?
Really hit or miss. And I think that this year is like that year where the fans are getting really hopeful again after Pyeongchang, where it's like, okay, Scarlet beat some really good players. She played some good series, short games, long games, and people really want to see that momentum continue. And I think Challenger is basically like her window to say, yes, I'm still at that level, and you should be excited for me when the circuit starts up again in June.
Yeah, it's always fun. And I feel like Scarlet is also not afraid to be even a little bit cheeky in the past in Challenger. There's been a couple of times, and 1 or 2 times, that she's just decided, you know what? I'm so much better than you. I'm just going to play Protoss.
Yeah.
She's done that a few times. Those are always fun.
Yeah. I mean, we've recently seen a player switch Raze because he thought his opponent was better than him. So
yes. Oh, Euthermal.
Almost worked.
Yeah. Well, luckily, I don't think we're going to be seeing that now, since neither Semper nor Silky seem to be the off-racing type to me.
Yeah. So the players are going through their vetoes right now. These two players did go up against each other earlier. We saw that gentleman's handshake type of game where it wasn't really anything super crazy. Yeah. It was your straight-up piecemeal bio versus Ling Hydra Baneling. Very standard schmandered. I did like what we saw on the Eastwatch game. The proxy starport was fun. The Hellion drop was fun. But of course, the Nidus play was really what Silky tried. And I think that we saw Semper take a very good approach to dealing with what was thrown his way, which makes me believe that Silky's probably just going to try to play this game straight up again, see if he can just outplay Semper, which would be difficult. He had a very good match.
Yeah, those matches were really close. I actually feel as though either one of the players trying to go for that big old macro game, I don't think it's a sure win or even something that they will feel hyper confident about just because of how close all of those macro games kind of went, which is why I really wish, and I know that Semper has been doing this occasionally, I want to say like 1 in every 15 or 20 games, he'll be like, yeah, I'll throw out something super cheesy. But it usually also doesn't work, so I feel like this is where, again, that weakness
Doing it regularly is what builds the confidence that makes you say, I want to do it when it matters. And if he's not a player that even practices it that often, then you know the confidence isn't there, which makes him very predictable. He's going to play standard, and that's why Scarlet was like, yep, I'm just going to Nidus him on this map because it's very obvious that he's doing something that's not very interesting whatsoever.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a tough spot, and I know that probably comes back a lot down to the time investment that it takes to practice of diversity of styles and everything, and Semper, being that law student, is always busy, is always fighting for time. Kind of funny enough. Silky, attending a very prestigious university as well, UC Berkeley, also fighting for time, but I think he seems a little bit more committed or invested in terms of practicing StarCraft these days.
Yeah, I mean, work-life balance, school, it's
different for everyone also.
Yeah, everybody manages things separately in their own ways, and both of these players are good enough that we have a very close match. I will say, whichever one of these players makes it out of this group into that playoff bracket is sure to find themselves as one of those guys that has to prove themselves with how good they can be for NA regional, especially if they can get all the way to that very top end and try to secure some seeding for the circuit events.
Yeah, I mean, even if you just think about the playoffs for the Challenger stuff for this season, you think about, okay, we have Neeb coming out as first seed.
Yep.
We have Scarlet coming out as first seed. Neither one of these two players will face off against Scarlet, I believe, just because it came out of the same group. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are looking at Masa for Group C.
Yep.
And then Group D is the only one that's like, maybe like No Regret or something. Maybe, probably the most beatable of like the #1 seeds,
Yeah.
maybe a Puck or something like that.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
yeah,
the
still, it's hard.
Yeah, when you look at the European region, you're like, well, it's going, the European bracket for Challenger is going to shape up to be like, you're going to be, yeah, these are 8 really good players from Europe. These are who we expect to be here. The upsets you're not really counting on. But
Yeah.
for the NA bracket, there's a couple of those, you know, I think if Semper gets a matchup against someone like No Regret, if he makes it out of this group, that's a very realistic possibility for him to upset and make a bit of a deeper run.
Yeah, you know, there's also a funny rule that kind of goes on in NA that I like to talk about, which is outside of Neeb. Neeb is like the only exception. Anyone in NA can beat anyone in NA. Obviously, there's still going to be a factor of who's a favorite and everything, but everyone, including like even Scarlet, will lose to people who you think are like, even in terms of MMR and stuff, it's like 800, 900 MMR below her, and you're like, what's going on? It's like, it's the NA thing. It's just an NA thing that happens.
Yep. Yeah, it's rough. Scarlet on a good day can be close to untouchable, but you know, her form is a lot more shaky. What makes Neeb the best NA player is not that he's like, well, okay, he is actually always winning all the time, but it's more that he's just very consistent. Like,
stability.
I mean, we've done so many of his tournaments out last year in online, offline, winning championships, and we never called into question. We're like, is Neeb feeling good today? It's like, is he in good form today? It's not something that ever gets brought up. Like, if he loses, it's usually like 1 or 2 key mistakes, but it's never like, wow, Neeb just played really bad this series. You don't get that feeling from him. Whereas I think a lot of the foreign players that we look up to be the ones to carry those torches can be very shaky. And Scarlet is one of those players. Sometimes she will just enter a tournament and go right out in the early group stage, and you're just like, well, what happened? Just wasn't feeling it.
It's the volatility of players, and I think that's exactly what we saw from Neeb last year in being very, very stable. But I do feel like actually this year, if I have to compare him from this year to last year, I think we are seeing a Neeb that is maybe a little bit more volatile. I think just in terms of the fact that he's lost to a lot of players that you wouldn't expect him to lose to, whether it be at Leipzig or even, I would say, more recently in the past couple of weeks in online tournaments. But enough about Neeb. We're talking about these two players who are coming out in their final match of this group to decide who's going to move on to the playoffs. We're going to be starting up here in the top left, top of the red Terran player. It's Semper on his fairly new team, Rise Esports.
Yeah. He's facing off against an opponent he matched up against earlier. He was able to come out victorious. In the bottom right, the blue Zerg is Silky.
Representing good old Storm Gaming. Staple of the NA scene.
Yeah. These guys, you'll see them all over in the NA tournaments. Very difficult players to go up against. And they are, for the most part, those players that have been coming up in the last year, Semper more so. I've seen Silky around for a while, and he's a college student. He's got other things going on, and we've seen the players that have been able to make big moves, especially as they finish school. You know, it can't be understated. Neeb is so young, but when he was playing for most of his career, he was in school, and then he graduated high school, and he's like, all right, I'm going to be the best StarCraft player in America now for a few years.
My favorite was when he is making the finals of major WCS events. Like I think at DreamHack Austin 2016, he makes the finals. He's still in high school, and he's like, I think I'm doing kind of well enough. Maybe I could take a little time off of school before college and stuff.
Well, you got all the way to the finals. You've the only person that really stopped him for a long time was like Hydra and whatnot. And then he's like, okay, I graduated high school, and now I'm just
Hydra's getting married. I'm free.
Yeah. It's an awesome story to follow for a lot of these NA players. As you know, it's especially in America, man. School is not cheap. It is tough for a lot of these. It's tough for a lot of Americans to go to school, and having that workload makes it that much more threatening to screw up in school.
I know a lot of players who are just kind of saying, yeah, you know, I'm actually not just wasting all of my money away that I'm winning. I'm putting it toward my college loans. The funny one, I think my favorite is Neeb is probably the most responsible pro that I have met, because I asked him, oh, what's he doing with his money? He's like, oh, my parents are investing it right now. Like I just said, hey, take all this. He's also, of course, getting his salary and stuff from Ting, so I think he just lives off of that, and then he's just saving all of the money he's got and investing it. I'm like, wow, you are more mature than me, and I am like 10 years older than you.
Yeah, these kids are getting so good at everything. And StarCraft teaches you those abilities to manage things. So
this Reaper.
This game is kind of starting now as we have the Reaper finally out, doing a bit of that poking. 3 kills picked up so far. We have a second gas being taken behind the factory, so we're sure to see that starport. And Semper's shown us that he likes to go for that fast Viking. Maybe follow up with the Banshee, but not a crazy amount. And he's really just shown the bio phase of things. Successful Terran gameplay. We had a group with 3 Terrans earlier today in Europe Group B, and we saw versus Zerg, the mech memes work very well. So I'm interested to see if Semper's going to shake it up at all in this series. He was able to win the first one, but that first game was pretty close, and the second game was just holding the Nidus all in.
Already nice from Semper to be able to, I guess, deny the third for a little bit, needing for Silky to actually wait until he had the Lings out with that speed to chase down the Reaper so he can safely get up that third. It's minor little delays, not anything super significant, but there is a Roach Horn coming up behind this as well.
So I think versus Terran players that like to go for the Viking and the Hellions with Stim, at least from my own experience, one of the most difficult things to deal with is that Roach attack where they just said, okay, I'm going to take a bunch of Roaches, get some Speedlings, and maybe more of some Ravagers outside your base and just blow the front door down. Because if you hit fast enough, the Terran player will not have made a transition into siege tanks. Now, Semper scouted the Roach Warren, but as a Terran, that doesn't always tell the whole story, since it really comes down to, is the Zerg player building 3 Overlords right now, so that when they're done, you can slam all the larvae into Roaches? Well, we have drones on the way, we have a lair on the way, so it seems like it's probably going to be more of a defensive Roach count, and Semper taking no chances, like, I'm going to get 2 Cyclones, because that, plus the Hellions, pretty much shuts down whatever you could try to do super early on.
Yeah. And out of that starport, he does have a tech lab on it, but hasn't actually started up Banshee or Cloak or Raven or anything just yet. So we'll see what he uses it for, considering he did just invest into that Viking in terms of starport tech. Oh man, poor SCV gets on the wrong side of the command center, and that's now gonna let the Lings into the natural.
This is a really nice read by Silky, and I mean, I would imagine this was done intentionally, but he's had to have noticed that Semper keeps building his command center on the outside of his base. He keeps making it as part of his wall. So he says, well, your Hellions are at my base. I got my Lings around the outside. Should be able to at least delay this, but forcing a cancel on the third there is really, really nice, because it gives him that option. Am I gonna just go take my own fourth now as I have the third done, or do I try to ramp up and do a bigger attack? Because if he was like to get Roaches and Ravagers up front, even if there's a tank in the back, some biles on that command center, you should be able to knock it down pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we see the Hellions making their way across the map. Finally, once again, going to try and look to get some damage on, because like you said, wasn't really able to do too much since the Ling run-by went there. We got a single Viking trying to find some Overlords, not able to find too much. And the Hellions, I mean, the drones actually evacuated out of there pretty quickly, so not too much done.
Not taking any chances. With this many Roaches and Ravagers, Silky's sitting pretty on his defenses. +1 attack is coming in, but you do have to be careful when you don't rush straight for the crazy economic game versus a Terran player that does go 3 command center, double engineering vein. You know he's going to play bio. So in a few minutes' time, when all of this pays off, Semper will have that giant macro machine rolling that we've seen him break out, which gave him that first series earlier today against Silky. So Silky, if he wants to change things up, he's got to do it well. And going for the Roach Ravager setup, which it seems to be his choice, is definitely nice. I wonder, has he seen that Stim's being researched? Has he seen the barracks inside of the main base?
That's a good question. I guess he hasn't scouted for a while. He's going to move in with the Overseer now. He's seeing additional Marines and he sees, okay,
so now he'll know that it's 100% bio. Because you see the Hellions and first see the Cyclone, you get a little antsy.
Well,
but
fair point.
He's a bit committed to the Roach Ravager. He will start a Bailing Nest though. He's not going to go like full out on that setup. It could just swing into Ling Hydra Bane, I guess. He just won't have the melee upgrades.
Yeah, it's going to get up that Baneling Nest after the Hydra Den, which I always feel like is a pretty good sign that a Zerg player feels not too threatened, especially if you have the Roaches out. There's no real reason to feel super threatened by just a handful of Hellions. Now the drops will start to pick up, but you can already see that one of these medevacs doesn't even have the full load of Marines since they're still popping out. Semper can continue light bits of harassment, but I feel like Silky has all the tools he needs to defend.
Yeah, this is a good setup. I don't mind it at all. The question that I have is, how smooth is this transition into getting Banelings going to be? Because Roach, Hydra, Bane, it gets kind of weird. Your army's going to block the movement of your Banelings. Because really...
Oh no!
Oh wow.
Baited!
Oh,
Baited.
Oops.
Oops. Alright, well, Silky at least manages to push back Semper on the other side as those Hellions and even the Cyclones having to retreat all the way back home. So far, the creep spread has also been pretty decent in terms of just getting it out there far enough that Semper can never really approach without at least giving Silky 4 or 5 seconds worth of advance notice to react. And that seems like it's been enough as Semper at a little bit of a queued up command ends up losing a bunch of these Marines.
Man, the medevacs might go down as well if those Hydras get closer.
Oh boy.
Grab the second one, also picked off. That crashes into the asset as well. That's a bad way for those units to go down. Second factory is being added. And here's the thing, he's like, okay, I'll get the second factory, got the tank transition, but the Zerglings are starting to come out with Baneling speed, Hydralisk speed, and a Hive. So it's that I built the Roaches and the Ravagers because I wasn't exactly sure what was going on at the start of this game. I wanted to be safe, but now things have swung over towards the other side where we're going to have that that Ling Bane Hydra become the army composition that tries to deal with this bio play.
All right, that Hive going to be a bit of a timer for Semper to see how he's going to be able to handle this. He needs to do something during this time, or at least get some tech up to help deal with that Hive, which he could very well do as he gets up his second factory with a tech lab. Do you like to see the Thors with this kind of composition or not really usually?
Nah, Thors just don't really add a whole lot to this because they're so slow. The damage output is nice versus Roach Hydra, but the thing is you're trying to move most of your army away from the enemy when you're playing bio because of the Banelings, and Zerg players just don't build air units really anymore, and Marines do better than Thors damage output-wise anyway if you have enough of them.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like the tanks. I mean, the way that I play this, because I mean, I'm not as good as these guys. You leave a lot of the tanks at home like this, so he moves out with the bio, but whenever the Zerg gets close, and I like that Semper does this. He has all the tanks at home. He's not moving them anywhere they can be hurt, and it allows him to get some map position advantage and prevents stuff like that Baneling run by from actually doing anything.
Yeah, so far no real significant damage done on either side. Both players have been done a pretty good job of just deflecting each other's attacks, although I'd say it's mostly been Semper trying to go for the attacks and Silky mostly responding, getting 1 or 2 little waves of Banelings in there. Okay, Marines stemming forward, gonna find the Queen. This is always nice. Clean up some of that creep spread that's been getting awfully close to his side of the map.
Yeah, it's so it's such a chunky army, right? Like the siege tanks are what you want to deal with this, but as those Vipers come out, Silky will have the opportunity to play around, and based on the current trajectory of this game, Silky's best chance of victory comes at catching Semper off guard when he tries to get a 4th base. That's going to be the real kicker. This double drop gets eaten up. The medevac, both of them picked off. The Marines get inside. There's a second, or was that 3rd stim? The Marines are all orange now running into that base. They get a Queen, but they would picked off very quickly. I think one Baneling needs to connect to kill all these.
Yep. A couple of Lings do find some siege tanks though. This is a nice pick off for Silky. Is he going to be able to get one of them? The other one barely survives.
Peeled off one extra tank, one extra Ling to get that other tank, and that was the difference maker.
Whoop.
Ducks 2 medevacs. Gets the full one.
Yeah. That's the important one.
Yeah.
Semper does force out a cancel on that base at a minimum, but that is a 5th base right now, so not the end of the world. Silky has time to get at that base later.
The whole army has to reposition there, and the sensor tower wasn't so much on the left side. Like, the big window is killing this, knocking this down before the planetary is done, but you know, Semper's had a little bit of time. The planetary is done. Liberators are showing up. There are tank siege there. So Semper should be able to get his income rolling up again and push out bio, but Silky's in this mode now where he's taking bases all over. He has income bank. He's building a bank because he's been maxed out, and he's just getting the rest of the upgrades that he needs for this game.
Yep, those 3/3 upgrades popping on out very shortly, and considering that Silky did fall a little bit behind on those Carapace upgrades, this is not a bad spot for Semper at all.
Now, I think if you're Semper, you're a little bit nervous about that 4th base because it is so crucial for this bio play, especially because he's getting the Ghost Academy and he got the Fusion Core. He wants to get Liberator range, wants advanced ballistics, and wants to add in Ghost to help snipe whatever comes out of the hive.
Good reaction time, deals with all the banelings, only takes a bit of damage on that refinery. Could be repaired back up. Here we go, though. Silky gonna try and move in from another angle, abducts the Liberator, backs out. Doesn't want to overcommit.
Yep, abducts one of the medevacs. The bio steps forward to try and block the Viper from grabbing the siege tank, which is a good play. I wouldn't even mind seeing that Viper use the rocks. Use the rocks, pull the tank across the rocks. The Marines can't get that close. It's a little bit more difficult.
Okay, for now, looks like Semper is just going to try and poke forward as he also moves in with the drop. This is really nice. Being able to snipe off this base is going to cut down on a bit more of that economy, but I believe that was a 3rd or 4th base. But now he moves in with that other wave on the bottom left-hand side and suddenly sniping off 2 bases. That's going to make Semper feel a lot better, but he's still up against at least a 4-base Zerg. It looks like this bit is not going to be able to do too much more.
Yeah, medevac's going to get picked off. The Vipers are getting their energy back. We have the Ultra push this army away. Medevac, full of units, almost gets taken down.
Yeah, so close to the Hydras all rally forward, try and snipe it off, but unsuccessful. Semper's finished up his 5th base location, but after your 5th base, this is where things get a bit tricky. Because he can take this low ground expansion. He's already going to be spreading himself a little bit thin, but any more bases just become very problematic to take.
Yeah, that bio, we've talked about it though. Semper does like to use his stim, his units a bit injured. Not a whole lot of energy on those medevacs. He's been mostly cranking out Liberators, as many Terrans are willing to do. That's where a lot of firepower is going to come out now that advanced ballistics is done researching.
All right, +3 armor finishing up as well for Semper, so he's going to have the full 3 upgrades at his disposal not long before the melee upgrades are about to finish, but +3 Carapace still far away from finishing.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting. He's moving out towards the middle of the map. Will we see the big Viper play? Will we see a huge counterattack on the left side? Trying to squeeze in that top right's not really too much of a thing. The Terran will have enough time to collapse back to the center position. So I'm wondering if he's just going to continue to just go... it seems like Semper just wants to play this as slow as possible, throwing away his cheaper units on the harass and just chilling. But some good pickups, those gas units, so valuable. All the medevacs die, and now that whole bio army is sitting over there with nothing to heal it. There are no medevacs on the map.
0. Total of 0. He's got 3 on the way, but he has been using so many medevacs for these drops, and he keeps losing them during the drops. He's getting damaged, sure. But
I think now would be like a great time to try and grab a few abducts, because if that bio stims up on you at all, you know that it can't be healed. Well, I mean, you don't see... he doesn't know that we know that there's no medevacs, but like continuing to posture like this is big, because if he can force more stims out, it's just really, really helpful in this situation.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of the old school ZvT where you'd have the mutas and you're just trying to bait out stims from the Terran player.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a similar ideal as even with the 3 medevacs out, you can see immediately what is Semper's reaction. He loads them up and tries to go for another bit of drop harassment because he's not as concerned about healing up his units. He's concerned about just continuing his aggression, which just could end up backfiring a bit.
Yeah, now the Broodlords are starting to come out. There's not a lot of them because the supply's been mostly kept up for Silky. He throws a couple Blinding Clouds down, gets the tank. I believe that Blinding Cloud hits the Planetary Fortress as well, so he's going to try to bust this one down. And that's going to free up supply for him to make more Broodlords. That's really the key here. Gets a bunch of Spines in the back, adds some Corruptors, but 4 more Broodlords is going to allow him to really push it on this side.
Yeah, it's just a small whittling away at his opponent's army, allowing him to gradually push forward, like you said. But the bottom left-hand base being sniped off is nice. These are just 2 medevacs, but those 2 medevacs... Oh, actually, I don't think this is enough over here from Silky.
Yeah, Hydra's prioritizing the bio there. He's going to pick up and get on out of there. But look at this. Corvid Reactor. That's energy for those bad boys, those robotic boys, coming out 3 at a time. The Ravens are going to really shake things up.
Okay, Ghost with Cloak. Going for snipes. I think getting maybe some of the banelings or something there, but just finding what they can. As you said, he's going to be going into a very, very efficient composition with those Ravens in conjunction with the Ghost. It's a difficult army to control, though.
Very difficult to control. You're going to keep most of it behind the Liberators with that advanced ballistic since they have so much range. And then you want to scan, use your sensor towers. Does the Zerg army get close? Try to hit them with the snipes. Are they clumped up? hit him with the anti-armor missiles. The anti-armor missile doesn't do a crazy amount of damage, but with the Corvid reactor, that Raven comes out with enough energy to use one. So as the Raven count gets the energy up, if you have 6+ Ravens with enough energy to use 2 anti-armor missiles, suddenly stacked together, that splash damage can blow up, I mean, damn near any army the Zerg can produce if it clumps up too much.
Damn near any army that almost any race can produce, I feel like sometimes.
Yeah.
But
even the Broodlords, I mean, the Broodlord's only like 225 health, right? So you're getting into that weird territory.
Broodlords go down pretty quick too, though, I feel.
Yeah.
Especially if you can just pair them up with 1 or 2 good snipes on each one of the Broodlords, and then you get a couple of those anti-armor missiles, they go down really quick. Okay, we got a nuke on the way, as well as a second Ghost Academy. So
Semper wants to try and push this the old school way, use that high ground position, use the cloak on his ghosts, as one of these liberators is going to get picked off, just going out and trying to grab some hits. The ghosts do get Fungal trying to snipe, though. The Corruptors take a lot of damage, but those Broodlings that hit the ghosts also cause the friendly fire, and he's really trying to posture with that snipe.
Yeah, he has a lot of ghosts to work with, though. That is the kind of one blessing here. And these Liberators also doing a great job zoning out those Hydras. The nuke is going down in a kind of offensive/defensive posture. It's sort of weird because it's in the straight up middle of the map, but you can see that he's able to zone out Silky's army for a little bit. He also scans and sees, okay, you got that base going up, but there's some units there. Tries to move into another location. There are units there, too.
Annihilated. More ghosts are coming out, though. Let's take a look at the total unit count. 6 Ravens, 14 Ghosts. Not too shabby. 78 SCVs. Semper, I do believe it is time to mutiny some of your workers here, buddy. Get a few orbitals back home if you want more income, but you could use a bigger army, for sure. I'm not sure if Semper realizes that he has so many workers. He's got 30 more workers than the Zerg player does, so might be asking himself why he doesn't have a whole lot of army.
Unfortunately, Silky is not really going for Ling run-bys or bailing run-bys. I feel like that would actually help him out a lot. But a lot of good anti-armor missiles going down. And they don't kill the Broodlords, but they do soften them up quite a bit. But the Fungals on those ghosts. Murdering a couple more of those. There's not that many left anymore.
Those siege tanks really aren't doing a whole lot for him. I guess now they'll help kill. Now the Liberators defended themselves against the eggs. In this situation, you really got to think about the value proposition on those siege tanks, because they're really helping the Zerg player clean up your ghosts. That's all they've done. Like the 1 or 2, the Infestor isn't going to kill your army. The Infestor doesn't mind suiciding as long as it stalls your ghost long enough for it to hit you.
Bioforce going over the Hydras in a retreat path. 1 medevac will escape out of there alive. There is another nuke coming down over at this base. Seems like it's already been evacuated, though, so not too much damage taken here for Silky. May lose 2-3 drones.
Nope. Kills an extractor. Noise. 2 creep tumors. And another nuke.
That ghost is going to run out of energy before that happens, though.
Yeah. Well,
the Queen doesn't care.
Is the army fast enough to catch that ghost? The Queen's gonna try. The Queen's like, dude, I'll just stand next to you. Cancels 3 building drones with that noise and kills the extractor.
Amazing value.
Yeah. Only 100 minerals and 100 gas for that extractor. Not too bad. More Ravens are coming out. Worker count is still really lopsided, as Silky has a much bigger army than Semper. Semper could really use, I think, a few more Ghosts and Ravens with this army composition, but keeping the high SCV count means that his income at least is going to be really high as he takes these bases.
I'm just getting worried that he's not legitimately going to be able to mine from
He has quite
bases.
A few extra SCV. He has 16 workers on 2 dead mineral patches. Actually, 1 dead mineral patch in the top right, and he's got 6 SCVs just chilling in his natural that are done mining gas. So these workers are not all actually being used efficiently, and this really is eating heavily into his army supply. That's several Ravens and several Ghosts and Liberators he could add to his army by getting rid of those forces.
Yeah, and I'm also kind of concerned that for Silky, taking bases that are kind of spread out, it's not super easy to defend sometimes, especially when Semper's going for the drop harassment, but for the most part, it's not a high-risk proposition. I feel as though every single time Semper tries to take one of these far-reaching bases, it becomes a high-risk proposition, and that makes me think that Silky's going to be the one that starts mining from Semper's bases before Semper does.
Yep. It really hurts Semper that he doesn't have as many army units as he should. Really, he should be thankful that this base is getting cleaned up because, there's some SCVs here that can die, which is going to be very nice. It looks like we did have some of that fine cheddar cheese mist put over those air units. And another nuke is going to land on this base. This one should be the one that kills the hatchery.
Yeah. Wait, it's 300 damage for... No, 500 damage for a nuke, right?
For buildings, yeah.
Yeah. Pop goes the weasel. Well, Hydra's find a nice spot. Well, this isn't even planetary fortress. They're just buying the mineral line because they just want to kill stuff.
Yeah, so he's down to 73 workers. At some point he'll realize that there's a reason why he can't build as many army units as he wants to. This does scare me a little bit, but you know, his army is better than Silky's, really. Ghost, Liberator, Raven, if you control it well, this beats everything. There's not anything you're gonna want more than this. Like, if he gets the snipes off, if he gets the Dorito cannons off, he's gonna pick this off with no issue. And those infested Terrans with them rocket launchers.
Yeah, that anti-air for the infested Terrans is kind of insane.
Yeah. They have bazookas now, guys. Somehow they turn Marines, which only have normal guns, into rocket launcher dudes after eating them.
Oh.
That's some weird infestation.
Good split off from that one Raven that's getting parasitic bombed, and is going to end up using it for anti-armor. Softens up a couple of those Brood Lords.
Yeah, at least he's keeping them honest with transfuses. He's going to have to constantly transfuse these armies, or the next fight could end up with a much lower health pool than he wants. And yeah, you see those infested Terrans, they do work against these Liberators.
That's a lot of infestors to make use of right now.
Well, Silky's like, you're going to try to kill me with mass energy units? Then I'll try to kill you with mass energy units because you have way less supply than you should. This nuke, though, this should be a good one. Semper should be able to blow up most of the spine crawlers here, clean up the drones, and that should allow any other attack to get in and do some damage. On the left side, he's going to hold off this Hydra push. Two of the spines are dead, one of them very low. No detection there. That ghost could just go to work with its cloak if it wanted to.
Oh, man, all these ghosts also starting to run a little bit low on energy. No, just going to go for another nuke in the bottom left.
Just on the premise of bank, Semper's just choking him out. Silky doesn't have a lot of gas anymore, and Semper has been able to put enough pressure on the few mining bases that Silky has, and Semper has, like, the bases he's up the corner base because he's nuking the bottom left one. He's up the center base because he's nuking the center one. So Silky just doesn't have a whole lot. Like 2,000 minerals with only 600 gas is nothing when your opponent has 8K, 3K. I mean, we're approaching Oprah money over here.
This is impressive because, yeah, like you said, Semper is not only out mining his opponent at this point, he's also just been more cost effective.
Yeah. And this army is the definition of cost effective. Some people are like, Mech's the most cost effective. It's like, no, actually it's Ghost, Liberator, Raven, which does have a biological unit in there.
Yeah.
There's really technically this is better than basic. This is better than anything the Zerg player can really make. You do not want to attack into this as the Zerg. A good play would be to try and get a Nidus into the main or something like that. You have to use the positioning. The Ghosts, they're kind of quick. The Liberators are quick enough. The Ravens are quick enough, but the Liberators have to set up, and the Ghosts aren't air units, right? So if you can catch them on the other side of the map, like, that's all I'm thinking, but if you're just going to trade against this, it's really tough. Use the Infestors on the exterior bases. Drop 40 infested Terrans on that planetary in the northeast. Use the Broodlords. Blow that up. Don't fight him where his defenses are.
Yeah, I like that he's at least getting those Spore Crawlers set up a little bit more aggressively to try and prevent the Liberators from sieging up too far forward, and also just getting detection, reliable detection on those Ghosts. But now he has to back out.
This is smart. Look, we finally have the Broodlords attacking the northeast base. So he's like, yes, you do have options here. You do not have to bash your face into the best defensive setup in the game that's in the center of the map. So that nuke is going to land, pushing back some of the Spore Crawlers, but really great job by Silky to finally take out some of these exterior bases. If it can get a good fight, even though there's almost 3,000 gas for Semper, this Raven army and the Ghost army and the Liberator, it's not replaceable. There's not enough gas to actually rebuild what he has here. His gas value of this army is close to 7,000. As he breaks 10,000 minerals. Of course, the hard part is you remember that Marines are also good units, and he has 10,000 minerals to crank him out if he can deal with the Infestors.
Yeah, how many barracks does he actually have to do something like that? He has 8 barracks, probably has a handful of reactors on those, so he can make a decent number of Marines at a time if he needs to. The awkward moment when the Zerg player is getting a hatchery in front of a bunch of SCVs and refineries, so SCVs just decide to kill it.
Yep, that's it's getting a little bit weird. I mean, EMP hits the Infestors, but there's so many Infestors, can still rotate enough amount. Oh, those Hydras.
Where are these Hydras going?
What are you doing? What's going on? Okay. Well, I still think that Semper, I mean, if you just look at the resources, that's the biggest problem right now. Semper has just been grossly cost effective. And I say that, but resources lost. He's not even that far ahead. It's just how many bases he's been able to mine from and for how long he's had those bases.
Yeah, he was a lot further ahead, though. I feel like it's only in the past few minutes that he's really fallen drastically far behind, because he was up
he
at
lost
least
the PF and the planetary and the tanks and the turrets up in the top right.
Yeah, at least up 8,000 resources not long ago, but
he's
now starting to fall
still
closer.
sitting pretty. I mean, he could just throw Marines or at his exterior bases like they're Zerglings. Like, you don't even need to support them with your expensive units. Like, you've got 10,000 minerals and your opponent has nothing. Your opponent can't even afford to max out.
Oh, yeah. Got a little scary there with the fungal growth, but Ravens will counter with some anti-armor missiles once again. And remember, there aren't exactly a massive number of queens transfusing these Broodlords. These anti-armor missiles do start to whittle away at the Broodlord health.
Yeah. So a good Infested Terran push forward here. And I'm just going to say it, Fear Dragon, him killing that northeast base was actually good for Semper. Because he's finally got 49 SCVs. You're like, oh, he lost 30 supply. It's like, no, that supply should be armed.
Oh, Ravens,
so that's money that he needs to put towards getting those units back. The Infested Terrans, though, you're right. They find the Ravens, those bazookas. Going ham.
Like 4 of them or 5 of them end up falling there just because Semper a bit distracted with the different attacks around the map. He did manage to kill off that bottom left-hand base. How many resources have actually been mined from this? This is, I think, barely 20 to 100 or something on each of these batches.
Yeah, with the amount of nukes dropped in that base, nobody should really be going over there for a long time, honestly. That northeast base is really like the last fresh base that's being touched at the moment. The center bases, and I think maybe that west side base should be getting close to mining out as this
Get a lot of mules there.
He's had these bases for a long time. I think we're going to see Semper probably rotate to the southwest. Or no, he's going to the gold now as these armies collide once more. But there's not a lot of energy left on the Infestors, so maybe he tries to push through here.
Yeah, but at the same time, this is also a weird choke point for him. Anti-armor missiles coming down, but there are the fungals that I'm a little bit worried about. Oh, but the anti-armor missiles also doing a ton of damage. Both sides just obliterating each other with splash.
Yeah, this is, I mean, the thing is, what Silky is losing right now is irreplaceable. What Semper is losing now, he has 8 grand to remax with. GG, he takes the game as, despite the effort that Silky put in there, Semper, he did a great job of boxing him out, and like he did like a Thorazane old school spoon Terran style. He's like, I am just going to just scoop the life out of you. I'm not going to do any big attacks. I'm not going to make some mega push, no parade push, nothing. He's like, I'm going to hit you here, hit you there, and I'm going to slowly carve out this map until you have nothing. And I've got 10,000 minerals in the bank.
Yeah, just starving him out. It was effective, and that was just game 1.
Yeah. As a Zerg player, you don't want to attack into Ravens like that. Ravens, Liberators, and Ghosts. Well, Ghosts do 175 damage per shot. At that point, all the Ghosts have max energy, so you're looking at them being able to wipe out your whole army on their own. And that's not to mention, of course, the Liberators are doing insane damage on the ground. And then, if any of your units clump up, ba-ring, all the anti-armor missiles blow you to pieces, so...
Yeah, but definitely don't want to undersell it. I mean, Semper had a very difficult composition to actually control.
Yeah.
The same thing will happen on the other side. If you mess up a little bit, boom, some fungals will immediately land. Boom, suddenly all your ghosts are getting taken out.
It's not an easy thing to pull off, but thankfully Semper read the rules on how to win games as Terran, to just play like Maru. He did it beautifully. And yeah, not trying to take anything away.
Yeah.
It's a tough army to control. I don't do Ghost Liberator Raven because like that's tough. I'd rather just build like 30 siege tanks and then try to get Ravens, and of course that has its own weaknesses. But Eastwatch is the next map. This is where we saw that Nidus play fail from Silky in their first series that they played today. So I'm wondering what Semper's going to bring to the table.
It's also just, it's almost a bit trite to say, but I feel as though game 2, whenever you have a long game, there's always those players that think, that was a long game, let's play a short one this time.
I'm exhausted. Let me cheese you.
Yeah, that's a pretty common mentality, I feel.
But I don't think Silky would do that build twice on the same map in the same group.
I'm trying to remember who ended up winning that game, because I remember that Semper...
No, Semper held it easy peasy.
Semper held it easy peasy because he didn't hold it so well that the units didn't get out of the Nidus run.
Yeah, well, right? The whole thing was that all the queens, it actually hurt Silky that he got units out of the Nidus, because he lost all of his queens, and then Semper's like, well, after one production cycle, I have units and you have nothing. So Let's see if he can close it out here. He's our red Terran in the northeast position. He is Semper.
And his opponent in the bottom left, it's our blue Zerg player, Silky. So, on Eastwatch, you're talking about some of the things that could be happening here. This was the Nidus War map you were talking about, but what other kind of things do you tend to associate on this map with?
I mean, this is, just by the nature of the layout of the map, this is a good map for Zerg. It's a good defensive map for Terran in certain ways, but taking the gold very quickly is difficult because you have the rocks that can be broken down. You can get boxed out of your own base. However, if the Zerg gets it early enough, it's not so much of an issue. We saw Nurchio earlier today go for that fast gold base, use the money he had from it to catapult himself into a huge Nidus play. So you have some aggressive options, but because the map is so big and there's no high ground area, there's no place where you're like, I'm going to have Marines overlook this base or this, that, or that. I think the one weird thing we saw was the drop on like that little Reaper cliff.
Oh, yeah.
And that's because of the gold base being there where it's like, I've got 2 tanks here. What are you going to do about it? But outside of literally just that one spot on the map, there's no high ground that you're really working with. So for the Zerg player, it's just about spreading creep and keeping your eye on all these choke points where your banelings can get big hits off on Marines. And I even think it's kind of weird to play mech because getting flanked is also very difficult by air units since you can't reposition yourself that well. Positioning is everything on this map.
Yeah, funny enough, we were talking about not really seeing as much mech, and I agree with that, but I do feel like I still see a lot of games on this map in TVZ go to that Hyper Lake game, very similar to that last map.
Yeah, well, the size of the map encourages that. Even for Zerg, like counterattacking is not that easy unless you have that sick creep spread because you've got such a far way to go. And a lot of the middle pathways on this map can also be blocked by the destructible rocks. You see the Reaper driving past one right now, and a lot of these primary paths can be closed off if you're deciding that, hey, I don't want to have to deal with the push anytime soon. Yeah, and there's also rocks by the third base, the non-gold one at least, where you can block that off. So because of that, sometimes you see, like, you can get a little more of the defensive play going. I find this map scary for mech because, at least as a Terran player, you don't have that emergency recall button or anything like that. If you cross the middle of the map and something gets into your base, you are in trouble. There is no easy way to go home. Your Hellions might get back. You could stim your Marines, but your stim will run out by the time you even reach your own base.
Oh man, I can't imagine a world like that, a world without recall. Must be hard to not be a Protoss player.
Yeah, that's why I enjoy playing Protoss these days.
Oh, I've been loving Protoss. Okay. Reaper pokes in, sees pretty normal looking base, sees that there's only 1 drone on gas, and Semper's going to feel pretty good about his opening so far. The question, I think, is going to be, does he invest into that Cloak Banshee, or is he going to go into the Liberators? I feel like, I don't know if this is always intentional or if he's just trying to psych out his opponent or what, but I feel like sometimes I'll even see Semper throw the Tech Lab on the starport, get up a Liberator, and then do absolutely nothing with that Tech Lab.
I feel like that's what happened last game, really. Like, he didn't end up using that Tech Lab. He built the Viking and then...
Yeah, I can't tell if it's like an intentional thing, if it's a reactive thing, if it's a mind game or what.
In a series, I think it's less effective because the Zerg player will get a read on it after multiple games. It's like, well, you do this every game, but you don't get a Banshee. On ladder, I love it because random guy on the internet's like, oh my god, Tech Lab, I have to get Spore Crawlers in every base and possibly go straight to Mutalisks for a free win. Whereas Semper's like, that's where you're wrong, kiddo, and just wins the game.
Okay, now I'm just waiting. Yep, it's gonna be a Liberator after the Viking.
Yeah.
This is really cute. Overlord will scout this out as well. Oop. I think it saw it. I think it saw the starport lifted though.
Yeah, that doesn't. That's not unlike your last vision type thing, so it'd be hard to know if he saw it by that fraction of a second that it was up. But the Lings are gonna block off these rocks. Silky's trying to limit the positioning that Semper can use against him. He might even break down those rocks later to make sure that nothing like siege tanks can be put on the other side to set up a front.
Those are always very annoying positions to deal with.
At least for the early game, it keeps the Hellions out.
Well, the Hellions are still going to find another opportunity to move in from this side for now, since it's going to be a while before they can try and knock down the other rocks. Drones taking some damage, but for the most part, Silky not really taking too many losses here and might actually even be able to trap in these Hellions.
Yeah, he's trying. I mean, the Lings did a really good job. He ran over that way. He's like, oh, I'm going to get to the third, but the Zerglings were all at the third, so that really helped Silky defend this. 4 Hellions for 3 drones. I think Silky's got to be feeling really good because that means that this the phase of the game where Semper has any semblance of map control is gone. You know, drop those creep tumors, take control of the map. It's a big map. You've got a long way to go with your creep spread, and brace yourself for a long game.
Especially since the reactor's not even done on that starport, so it's going to be a bit longer before he even gets out the medevacs. He just has a lot of space to work with. The only thing he even has to worry about is that one Viking killing off an Overlord.
Yeah, that's about it. One decent pickup. That Viking's gotten 2 of them. There are a few others on the map. There's one on the south end, and I think that's the Overseer is making its way towards the main base in the northeast.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, that one probably going to likely die to maybe some Marines that are rallying on out as opposed to just the Viking, but Stim about to finish up as well. Overseer just pokes back out. It might not even get scouted.
Yeah, just making the most of what he has available to him. Hydralisk will start up. Baneling Nest will start up. We'll see Baneling Speed. We get all the Hydralisk upgrades going, and it's going to be, of course, that Lingbane Hydra. And I think if you're Silky, you are really looking for an opportunity in this game to deny the later expansions. And if you have any chance to do so, take the fight to Semper before he reaches that Terran endgame. Many players try and fail, but Semper appears to have what it takes to control that army composition, and he's already thinking about that endgame. He's getting 2 armories. This is either an accident or he wants to get vehicle weapons and ship weapons just because he knows that Vikings or Liberators, one of those 2 will be very useful later on. Even, I guess he could get armor for his air units.
Yeah.
It's not like he's going to switch into mech, and if he did, I'd be very confused.
Yeah, I agree that it is a bit unorthodox to see the double armory this early on. If you are very clearly going for bio and getting up your bio upgrades as well, it will be useful in the super late game, like you said, but I do want to question if Silky is actually going to do something like that, just because he has very rarely been the aggressor until the very late stages of these games. So
I think he learned in the last game that if he doesn't want to be aggressive at all, Semper is like, I am totally fine with that. You will have to deal with Ravens, Liberators, and Ghosts ripping your army to pieces at a 100% discount price.
Oh boy. Bailing's being used with rocks. Not ideal. Bit of a misclick there, but nothing too massive. I think it only loses 1 or 2 of them. Semper loads up with another 2 medevacs, though, and the rocks getting knocked down is, of course, very important here for Silky, but now Semper moves in with... Oh, okay, he's going to unload on the low ground, siege up the tanks, and then...
see those tanks positioned onto that weird area where they can't really be hit. So, Semper, gonna play out of the book we saw opened earlier. I think that was by Thermal. Let's see what he can get done as these Marines can easily retreat. Of course, the Roaches and Hydras will try to get to those tanks, so you do want to just make sure that the tanks take out the Banelings and you can keep them alive. Does look like the tanks are all going to get cleaned up, though.
Yeah, I mean, the tanks get cleaned up pretty quickly. I don't know that the Marines traded all that efficiently. It was an okay trade.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of it, actually.
I mean, losing the tanks sucks, but... is Silky going to counterattack across the map is the only question, and perhaps Semper just doesn't think he will. If Silky doesn't try to push the issue, there's nothing to worry about, and, well, Semper is clearly showing us, as you're showing us, that he's gotten enough of a macro edge in this game. He doesn't miss his production cycle, so having all those tanks back home means that it not necessarily going to work, because the map's so big. It takes so long to even get there to try to counterattack.
Yeah, a lot of Banelings being made here for Silky, though, and I feel like that's maybe a signal that he wants to try and do something, maybe along the right-hand side of the map, knock down these rocks and bust on into that third base location where Semper is going to be a bit less fortified. He's got some tanks further back, but nothing super close. Wants to take care of these drops first, though. If you move out against a Terran player and you haven't taken care of the drops, then things start spiraling out of control quickly.
Yeah, does get the denial on the gold base. Not a bad grab for Semper in exchange for medevac. The Marines on the top side having a rough time. And we see that Hydra Bane. It's just there's so many Banelings. The Hydralisks come up and start shooting at your Marines real easy. And this is becoming a very difficult composition to deal with. Silky just has no interest in trying to make a play here. I still think that there's always the opportunity if you keep eyes on the Terran's 4th base. Like right now, if he was in a position where his creep shard was forward enough and he could collapse on this army while these tanks are sieging, he could dive on this base because the majority of the Marines are elsewhere at this point or in the production tab. But is Semper going to keep moving forward? Are we going to see a big push from our Terran player here?
Medevac does go down, and that might finally trigger Silky to group up his army together. It's going to be very important right now.
He could try to break these center rocks. Okay, actually, I don't like the tanks being sieged there at all, but he does have enough of them that are protected. And that bottom right rock side, Silky's going to try to bust it open so that he can go for a flank. That base is under a lot of pressure. Silky needs to make a move soon.
Okay, here we go. Silky is busting forward. He's going after the siege tanks. He's going after the Marines. The Hydra's on the right-hand side, not faring quite as well. Semper is going to be able to hold barely over here. Continue to put on some more pressure.
All right, I mean, just inch one of the healthier tanks forward a little bit. Keep your Marines moving up. Get that damage done. The Hydras can hold the Marines, but if at least one of these tanks is supporting them, they should be able to continue to push forward and pick off that base. Good scan, keeps eyes on all of those Hydras. Actually, one bait Zergling does a great job of holding it back at the same time.
Hydras try and move in while the Marines chase after some of the Hydras on the south side, and they snipe off all of the tanks. So there goes a lot of the firepower for Semper's push. Has a harder time pushing too much further forward. He has 1 or 2 siege tanks coming in later, but he's just going to try and poke forward with some of the Marines. Yeah,
he really wants to grab that base. He's going to stutter step some of them towards that northwest side, grab a drone. Looking for a little bit more there, but gets the base now, which is really nice. We have to keep in mind, of course, that the gold is being taken again. That northwest base is also being taken, so the drones will have somewhere to go. But now Semper, as any Terran player is wont to do, he's got to drop on the top, and he's going to try to send the rest of his forces most likely towards that south side. This medevac gets eaten immediately.
Okay, we got a couple Liberators also being made, so it seems like Semper has the beginning of an answer to some Ultralisks coming out. I don't believe Chitinous Blading has been researched just yet, though, and it's not on the way yet either. Neither is +3 armor, so...
With +3 attack finishing up, that means that Semper's Marines will actually obliterate these Ultralisks if they get close. They are enough. Perhaps it's just one of those scenarios where the Ultras can still be impactful by soaking that little bit of damage that they will, while the Banelings get close enough to land the big connections.
Okay, a couple of drones going down as they transferred over to that gold. The little drop will get cleaned up, though. Semper not quite fast enough on the pickup or the escape, so Hydras clean that up. Semper trying to poke forward once again. That center base not retaken, though, so Semper has to be careful not to overcommit here.
Yep, and the Vipers are going to abduct a medevac and a Liberator. The Liberator looks like it's going to barely squeeze its way out. Of course, there's quite a few siege tanks here to help hold the door.
Okay, Pneumatized Carapace finally coming out at the 13-minute mark as Silky just wants to make sure he has those Overlords coming out fast enough into the right locations. Would love to see him even just get some sort of pressure out on the map, even if it's just small little bits of Ling run-bys or something. I know the Planetary Fortresses make this hard, but I feel like there are other opportunities to get something done.
This map is just so tight and narrow with some of the rock paths that are closed off. It's very difficult to get through and actually find an opportunity to do anything. Wants to take the gold base, but there's already a Ling there. There's Lings waiting. So if that base is even worse somehow to magically land, Lings would be right on top of it, adding more command centers. And here we go. We're heading back to that same place we were on Acid Plant. Ghosts are coming out. Sensor towers are being added. Only thing I would need now is what? The fusion core, some nukes, Liberator advanced ballistics, and we will be right back where we were. Of course, the map being bigger means there are more opportunities to try and run around that Terran Death Ball, but it remains to be seen what he'll do to deal with this. It only takes one good fight in this mid-game stage where the Blinding Clouds neutralize those tanks enough for Banelings to connect with the Marines, but Semper has really not been giving up any opportunities for that to happen. He's just been doing such a good time putting his army together. We see almost gets caught, but the rest of the army's not in position. So now the tanks are sieged, Liberators are sieged, abducts a ghost.
It's a value proposition.
That's a very good grab, but Lings in the counterattack inside of that natural expansion are going to get 8 SCVs. These Lings are going to try to deny the gold base, and so they shall. So not too shabby. On the other side, Silky getting a bit of pressure in on Semper.
Yeah, and he's able to get into a nice spot where he can snipe off this base safely and then retreat back out, sniping off one of the important mining bases for Silky. Silky's trying to establish this other top base. As Lings on the gold base of Semper are getting killed off. I think there's one Ling left.
I know you want to kill the top base, my dude, but yeah, there's still a Ling.
Gotta take care of that. Liberator again snagged once again. Oh,
Ooh,
Ultra. I think it just came out of some larva that was left over.
Yeah, that's not so great, but there's still a lot here to defend. I mean, if you're in this weird back and forth dance and the ghosts aren't getting you, you should be trying to use those abducts very liberally, since you can just, you're at your own base. Just go eat one of your extractors that's mined out. Get your health back. Use the transfuse. Make the most of those Vipers and that consumability that you have, because those ghosts, their energy, they can't eat the Marines to get more energy.
Oh, that would be beautiful if that was also an attack that gave them energy.
Yeah.
Mana Siphon. Oh, some Blinding Clouds landing on these tanks. Gonna be able to shut down some of those attacks, but I don't think it's enough for him to really push forward.
Now, a lot of the units did actually go down in that fight. We do have more forces pushing out towards that center top position, and Silky just wants to get Semper off of his gold base, but as the Terran holds here, gets more entrenched, gets a lot of the drones that are evacuated out of that gold, and needs to be careful. If he tries to get in those medevacs to fly away, yeah, we see the abduct hit one of them, and it will get picked up, but the rest of the Bio's going to make it out on foot. The Ultralisk steps forward into the firing sights of that Liberator in the tanks, but transfusers are going to keep it alive. That Queen's like, no, the creep's gone.
I mean, in some senses, it is a good trade for Semper to snipe off that base. In other senses, I feel like he dropped a lot of army supply there in exchange for that.
Yeah. Well, you know, the big thing that I'm noticing at this point is outside of that little bit of a Ling run by that made it into the natural, Semper has not been touched on his bases. And let's not forget, if you want to defend this, you need a lot of your army. But Semper doesn't need too much of his army to defend back home when he's building planetary fortresses all across the map, because those Hydras, they just don't have the speed to get all over there.
Yeah, I'm surprised this one's actually an orbital command.
Yeah, he just feels that comfortable. He's also managed to make a very sweet Venn diagram of sensor towers in between all of those bases.
Yeah,
a few of them are very close to each other, actually. I think there's like, yeah, those two right there.
If anything is inside that base killing things, he will know about it for sure.
Tale of two sensor towers.
35 Banelings on the way to join in with the 2 existing Banelings. That might be enough firepower for Silky to start finally getting aggressive in his own right. Semper's aggression has finally taken a bit of a back seat.
Yeah, he's going to keep trying to drop, but the units are here. Silky's been responding very nicely, very well to everything that he's been trying to do.
Ooh.
Comes in, just busts this planetary wide open. Corvid reactor is on the way, though, which means this game, it's reaching its final evolution. We're going to have Ravens coming out.
Yeah. Probably after that next wave of 4 Liberators, but hey, here we go. Silky, start. Nope. Okay, not gonna move into the side of the map.
It's like as a Zerg player, if you go for that, you either win the game right there or you just lose it. Like you don't make that commitment and walk away with anything if you don't completely obliterate the Terran army.
Okay, Semper might have a hard time pushing in over here, though, because now he will get caught between the main army and all the reinforcements.
That's exactly what Silky should be doing. He couldn't really do this on Acid Plant because it was easier to fall back, but even the Planetary Fortress, when you have this much of your army committed to it, is going to be able to get taken down. Those Banelings want to run around the outside and bust on the SCVs. They're not actually able to do that. The Ghosts are coming back, though, and he's going to try to spray that snipe all over these forces on the way out.
Yeah, gonna get a couple of these Ultras very, very low. One of the Ultras doesn't get the memo that they're trying to escape out of there, and Semper also manages to take out one of these top left-hand bases. There's another base going up, and another base over here that's gonna be very vulnerable. Even the Liberator sieging up in time to prevent any reinforcements in defending this.
Yeah, this has been really well handled by Semper. Losing the planetary sucks, but he still has a good amount of SCVs, and because the 2 orbitals are right there, he can just move it there. And I do like this. He's like, well, I can't have a planetary at the goal, but if I put one Liberator around the command center, it will at least eventually pick off these Zerglings.
Oh man, Semper is gonna snipe off 3 bases.
He's killed all the mining expansions except for that center position that was retaken. So this means that Silky's income is going to drop pretty hard. Now, Semper did lose a lot of his mining at the peripheral bases, but of course, you know, the Terran player will have mules, and with all those command centers, can build the SCVs if he really needs to. 51 is fine. You don't need as many workers as the Zerg does.
Yeah, he has 5 orbital commands, a little bit lower, honestly, than I thought he did, but I just realized, yeah, he floated over his main base orbital to that gold base. I think he's just been floating a lot of his bases around, but yeah. Still, like you said, it's going to be more, really, than the Zerg player has in terms of mining.
5 orbitals is plenty. With 57 SCVs, he is raking in the cash. So it's not a huge issue for Semper, especially considering how cost-effective this army becomes when you have those ghosts. I don't think we actually saw the Raven transition happen because he'd been pulled around so much, but might want to get a second Liberator on that base because it's like, well, okay, yeah, you have a Liberator there, but my Zerglings can still kill the SCVs and leave before that becomes an issue.
Yeah, the second Liberator, even just a bunker or something with 2 Marines, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of Overseers here now. He seems tired of the ghost shenanigans.
Yeah.
So it would seem. Grabs the medevac though, and
he
abducted his own Overseer. Oh no. Oh, that's unfortunate.
I think he only had maybe 2 Hydras in there either. Anyways, here are the bunkers.
Yeah,
those did not hold up that well.
Those are some strong boy Zerglings. They got the adrenal glands and the 3/3, so they're kind of good at ripping those buildings down. Maybe some building armor.
Oh.
You know, mix it up a little, shake it up.
Ghost getting so aggressive here, looking for the opportunity to get those snipes off. They have to be careful not to get abducted. Well, I feel like abducting a ghost is similar to abducting a High Templar. You're kind of asking for the feedback / the EMP, so you got to be careful about that, but okay.
Ooh, do the ghosts get enough time to actually get their snipes off? A good few of them do, and we see these Ultralisks taking insane damage. Most of them picked off by this point. A lot of the bio died at the same time, but it's a full, complete trade of the Tier 3 units in that fight. What is left over? 5 Ghosts, 20 Marines, 6 Liberators, 2 Ultralisks, 5 Vipers, and only 4 Hydralisks. So in terms of the army value, there's a little bit more on the Terran side still. These Ghosts still have a lot of power. I think with the number of Overseers here, stop using Cloak. Use the extra energy for more snipes, because that's what's going to win you this game.
Yeah, these Lings and these Ling run-bys have finally started paying off as he gets an orbital command down to burning. He's going after the rocks to continue swinging on into that 3rd base. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of SCVs here, but even just getting a pick off on an orbital command, sniping off a Ghost Academy, these are all value things that Silky can do and try and pull Semper back. Because look, Semper, I think for the first time in this game, in a long time, he is not being aggressive, but he is still finding a way to be aggressive.
Yeah, he's lost most of his SCVs, and now with the 5 orbitals, he's cutting it very close because he's losing his mules too at these bases. That the Zergling run-by play, this is one of the things that makes playing Eastwatch against Zerg so damn difficult. Your army's in the middle, you're trying to attack, you're trying to harass. Those Zerglings, they're fast boys, and they ravage bases. We saw that Ling run-by killed 2 full bunkers without any trouble. And if you want to defend against this, you have to commit serious amounts of supply back home. So Silky's he's been rocked by the number of bases that he's lost, but he's finally grabbed momentum in this game, and now I'm worried for Semper.
Okay, Semper gonna try and re-seize that momentum, going for another drop on the south side of the map. He's moving in with the rest of his army, also gonna catch a lot of the drones transferring. Silky only has 33 drones, Semper only has 32.
He had a lot of drones on that base, and suddenly Semper finds himself catching Silky out of position from that north side. That drop distracted everything. These Ghosts, are they looking for the snipes? We are going to have a few land on the Ultralisks.
Okay, a couple of them softened up. There's only 3 Ultras over here. 4 Ultras out on the map, a handful of the Vipers. I mean, Silky has a lot of high-value units, but he's got to find a good engagement angle to make use of them.
Yeah, this is such an intense situation to be in. I really liked where Silky was going, being able to get up his bases, but Semper has just kept up that harass. He's gotten forces in the northwest side as well that are just now being cleaned up. He's really continuing to apply that pressure, but this is where we've seen his economy take so much damage. It's like, yeah, you got the Liberator, but I've got enough Lings to kill all of your SCVs before it even matters.
Oh my god, that Liberator is the one that'll get the massive promotion. And nobody will actually know the story when he gets the promotion of, oh, you got 50 kills? It's like, yeah, totally. I didn't let all of my teammates die during that time, though.
Yeah, the job was to protect the SCVs. The Liberator does not really do that. It keeps the command center alive, so that's nice. But you're basically, man, it's unfortunate. It's one way to do it. He needs the bio to push out on the map. At least by having the Liberator there, it's more of like a set it and forget it type thing. Doesn't require as much focus or micro to defend that base. He just constantly has his SCVs getting cleaned out.
I like this kind of push, though, up along the north side, because this also protects the gold base. He's attacking along the route that Ling run-bys would be swinging in, but Silky knows that, so he sends some Lings here, but Semper knows that Silky knows that, so he has a couple of bio units there.
The mind games are getting a little too deep. Well, he also has the giant Venn diagram in the southeast, so.
Ah, that's true.
Yeah. No sensor tower. That's why the gold base has been having such a hard time.
Okay, Ghost looking for an opportunity. Oh, they might be able to
snipe
EMP
across
over.
the ridge. Snipe across the ridge.
Or snipe, yeah.
Oh.
I think it's sniped a Viper.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he just got with that one.
I think he got a Viper because there were 5. Now there are 4.
Okay. Math is good. So where's the rest of the army? These Liberators left over here. The Ghost's not really with us. He's just going to pick up and try to run. The Vipers are all out of energy, I think. So, wow.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, they're all out of energy.
If he had abducted those.
I think he got an EMP off. He must have.
Yeah. Abducting those. No, the Vetoes! What are you doing? Semper, pull back.
Okay, he's going to get back to the gold base, but he might have to lift that up.
Even hard to skip a beat.
That one Liberator. It's going to go out with 52 kills. Not bad.
Yeah.
Knocking out the rocks.
The Liberator did a lot of work over there, even though that base never really got to mine.
Oh, but Silky's also barely mining it. Wait, he's not mining. Hold on. Look at that income. It's not moving. It's barely moving at all.
Both of these players are getting pretty broke, but the Mule's landing at that south center base. This is where he's going to defend. This is where he's trying to make that hold happen. As the computer's heart seems to be giving out as well. Everything is on here with all of these Liberators and the Ghosts and the Medevacs. Despite Silky breaking a good part of this base apart, those Liberators have just erased most of his army. Now the Marines and Marauders are coming in from the other side. Ultralisks are tough, but without any support, this boy can be chased. And look at that, peeling him back through the liberation zones. And Silky's army has been eviscerated. GG, good luck, as Semper is your second place player to make it out of this group.
Wow, and what a game number 2, even a game number 1, a crazy, crazy series, and what a way to finish up Group B.
Yeah, that was exhausting. That was exhausting to go through. The drops constantly hitting, the snipes being a little here or there. The Ling run-bys, the counterattacks were great. I do find it curious. I guess Silky just felt the pressure of all of his bases being pushed. He's like, I have a good army, but I have to force myself into this last base where 6 Liberators are sieged up. And
yeah,
I don't know. Doesn't matter how good you think you are. If you're attacking into a supported 6 Liberator siege range, you are going to get messed up.
I wonder if it's actually just because you were talking about how he's probably felt pressured because he didn't have the economy. It was to the point where he was going to need to mine long distance for close to a minute and a half before you'd have the minerals to build a hatchery.
Yeah.
I think at that point, you kind of feel, if my opponent's mining at all, they're going to at least climb up an additional 30, 40 supply, and I'm not climbing up any supply during that time, so it's only going to get worse from here.
Great games by Semper. We expect no less from you, and I'm looking very forward to seeing how he fares as he gets to the playoff bracket here for the World Championship Series Challenger NA.
Indeed, but let's take a look at kind of how things went today, because you guys can see over here that these are the players that managed to advance on out from Europe.
Yep.
And of course, we also have the dates there for Group C and D.
April 21st for the next European group, and April 29th for the final European group. So lots of cool stuff going on, and the American groups were, I thought, really fun today. This was the group that was wide open because the second known player, Kane, is just not in the same form that he was when he was a big top NA pro.
There's a big question mark coming in because it's, you know, Kane has a bit of an aura around him to some extent where it's like he was one of the best North American players for a bit, and returning to form, there's something that always comes with that.
It takes time.
Yeah, it takes some time, of course. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how things are going to go as we take a look at NA. And we see that Neeb, Jon Snow, Scarlet, and Semper. That is a true NA list if I have ever seen one. If you
look at that, like top 4 NA players, you might say that they're right there. So,
all right, but ladies and gentlemen, even though WCS, EU, and NA Challenger are not going to be returning until about a week from now, there are still a lot of fantastic events happening in the community. Nathanius, what are some of those wonderful, wonderful events that are happening in the community?
What a strange question that you should ask, Fear Dragon, because we've got GSL starting up in just a few days' time. Copa America Season 1 is going to start, so go watch Special, win everything. We've got the Nation Wars Finals coming up on April 22nd, and WCS Austin at the start of June, which I cannot wait for. Getting the circuit back on the road, getting some Texas barbecue. You better believe I can't wait to go to Austin for that. That is going to be one fun event.
That's going to be insanely fun. And of course, there are plenty of other random awesome events going on. You should sure go ahead and check out a Twitch page on
For
StarCraft 2.
all you know, you check the Twitch directory for StarCraft 2, there could be something else going on right now. So
Yeah, to be fair, there are very few moments in StarCraft where there's not an event going on.
yeah,
Even at 4 or 5 in the morning, I'll be like, I can't sleep.
check it all out.
Let's go look
it's
it up.
good.
Yeah.
StarCraft is good. Get more of it.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning in for WCS, NA, and also EU Challenger. We'll be back in about a week. Enjoy.